Right, is there cameraman's ready? That's good. Mr. Van Asch, you're a little early, but we like it like that if you can. Thank you. So this is, councillors, this is part 2, volume part 2, and it's page I-59. All right. 62, right. So welcome. 10 minutes, and I see you've got a PowerPoint all set up, ready to go. So 10 minutes, if you'd like us to ask you questions, it's your 10 minutes. You can do what you like with it, but that's all you get. So if you want us to ask you questions, it will have to be within the 10-minute time frame. Yep, cool.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Will Van Asch. I drive the black train around town here, the Hawke's Bay Express. That's my wife and I's little business. We've been on the road 3 years, and basically here to talk to you obviously about tourism. Obviously you guys have already decided to take on the tourism remit and do that, and then I sort of wanted to quickly talk about what, why and how much. The promotion of tourism, 80%, just about every region in the world is domestic tourism, 20% is international, unless they've got a real iconic element that changes that mix. And most places in the world invest in tourism, whether it be a council, governments and so on. They see the importance of it, and basically people come to a region to interact with events, activities, do something, and then they stay somewhere, eat somewhere, sleep somewhere, and do all those things. So there's the spin-off effects, but they come to do something. And the reason I see why it's such a strong alignment with the Hawke's Bay Regional Council is tourism eases pressure on natural resources, doesn't increase it. It actually often in many countries and regions actually helps us preserve natural things. It doesn't actually put pressure on us to try and develop it. It's already a marketable element. You don't need to turn it around and change it. And then, of course, you guys got to decide how much. So I'll just quickly nip through this. In the 2012 report that you guys had done, it was underlining that Hawke's Bay's economy is vulnerable to external factors, global drought, and all the other elements you can see there, exchange rates and interest rates and so on. They also pointed out that the poverty and disadvantage within the region also needed to be addressed. And to be more prosperous, the report said the region needs to diversify and significantly deepen its economy. Well, tourism is that element. And I would also add in there pests and diseases, fruit flies, ants, gypsy moths, all those sorts of things make Hawke's Bay very vulnerable to the economy. When we're growing all those things, it's often monoculture and is at high risk. So tourism is a wonderful way of alleviating that. One of the graphs I think that was interesting, Stats New Zealand, if you look at the graph there, over 50% of New Zealand's GDP is in services. That is, they don't produce anything, they actually are working in services. If you look at the top dark green bit, that is primary production within the country. Yes, primary production and forestry and so on are big foreign exchange earners. So is tourism, but it's also in the service industry. And the service industries in all developed countries is where the growth is. You're limited by the size of the land area you've got to what you can produce unless you intensify it. The more intense we get, the more problems we have with waterways and everything else. So tourism actually is a great way of relieving that and actually being able to grow your economy in a different strain that isn't constrained by natural resources. As you can tell, I'm a bit nervous about presenting to all of you. All right. Then investment in tourism. Employment growth is the fastest of any industry when you invest in tourism. Tourists need 24/7 care when they're here. If you've got 100 tourists, you need a lot of accommodation, you need a lot of meals, you need services, transport, all the other things that they need, internet cafes, coffee shops, all those sorts of things. If you grow the economy in the rural sector, it just means bigger machinery and so on, which is often an investment where the money leaves the country anyway. So it's a major difference from that in the fact that it stays here in the region. Growing up here, I'm a fifth generation farm boy. I grew up on Craigie Range Farm. When I was a young lad, every morning coming to school there was traffic going the other way at 100 miles an hour. They were the fences, all of the other people involved with the industries out there, the builders, the plumbers. Farming, when it earned money, spent money, and all of the people went out to the regions to earn money. By the time I was 15, when I was on the school bus, everybody was going the other way. The wives, mums, husbands were coming into town to earn money because it's a very different economy out there, and they run the farms almost in isolation to themselves. They don't employ a lot of people. You do everything you can to not employ people on a farm, hence why I've got the skills to build the train. But what I'm saying is you grow your economic activity in agriculture, horticulture and so on. It isn't necessarily a great employment stimulator. It is in tourism. I believe Hawke's Bay Regional Council already do a lot that actually helps our tourism. You already are an advocate for the environment. You already develop lots of areas, and they've got hundreds of projects. I won't list them to you and teach you to suck eggs, but there's no need to change what you're doing other than all these wonderful things you've already done. Why don't we just promote them? You've already got the cycleways, the walkways and everything else. This is just a natural progression to say, well, look, we've put this in. As you head south from Hastings, you come across the wonderful swamp marsh areas there. There's wonderful walkways put in. We've already paid for all the money. We've just got to tell people to go and use it. And I believe Hawke's Bay Tourism will do that. So you're already improving the environment, and you're also giving the ability for people with your partnerships with DOC and so on to utilise the environment, hunting, tramping, hiking and so on. We just need to tell people it's there. The other thing about it, of course, is that if you have a look at the sports stores, the nationwide chain of sports stores, they have a grading system per sport: snow skiing, water skiing, sailing, fishing, river fishing, kayaking and so on. And if you've got excellent availability of that, you get a category A. If it's average, you get a G and so on down the list. Napier and Hawke's Bay are the only store in the country that has an A for every sport available in a camping and fishing store. We have all of the natural environment, we've got the weather, we've got the facilities, we've got all of the natural things. We just need to tell people about it. How much? Well, it's up to you guys to decide, but when you've got a budget, you're always working out pros and cons, where to put your money. You're never going to have enough to do everything. I believe if you look at the return on tourism and as an investment, it's second to none for employment growth and actually stimulating the local economy. The money stays in the region. My wife and I started a business. We've spent over $700,000 since we started it, and it's all been local. It isn't a $100 million plant expansion, where 80 million of it was plant from Germany. We've spent it all in the town here. I spend over $35,000 a year promoting my business. Most of it's through local people, the printers, everybody else that we use. So the whole point is that tourism brings the money in and we keep it. And it's not adverse, as is many of the other elements in Hawke's Bay, to weather, climate, drought, disease and so on. And I believe that if you haven't got the money to expand your budget, that if you compare against other things in your budget, the return on investment would mean that you would choose this over other things. But basically, that's me in a nutshell, as quick as I can.
Councillor Graham.
Thanks. I actually love your business. I'm standing by it with my kids, and I wish I could afford to go on it, that's all. I'll be the one waving next time. I'm just really interested whether you keep the numbers of the people that do go on it. Clearly there'll be people from Hawke's Bay, because it's such an interesting thing to do while you're in Napier, but New Zealanders versus people from overseas.
For my train ride, you mean?
Yeah, for your train ride.
No, actually this proposal is more about nationals, as Annie says.
But what are your numbers? That's what I'm interested in.
I'm 95% international, 5% domestic.
Wow.
The interesting thing is we're growing the domestic, which is something I didn't expect. People saw the train, and just like my father, unless he had helped me build it, he wouldn't have never ridden it unless he was in a pine box, because of the fact that you come off the farm, you don't do that. But when they have international tourists in town, they take them and go on it with them and then go, oh, this is cool. And then they come back with other friends or relatives that have come from around the region and so on. But most of the time, like most people, they see the rest of the world before they see their own backyard. But I do believe in the fact that the promotion, as Annie said, is 80% national. If you look at California, 80% of the people who go to Californian beaches and attractions are within a 5-hour drive. In Australia, it's within a 6-hour drive. Even the Gold Coast, even the Sunshine Coast, 80% of their market is drivable. It's not international. Yes, they do come over and collect the cream of people to go over for a sunny holiday from here, but it's a small bit of their market. But I'm very different, and that was the way the business was set up, to intentionally do the cater for the cruise boats and to actually take it where people are going to come and do a tour. I mean, if I go to Wellington, I would do a city tour, but if there was a city tour in Napier, I probably wouldn't have done it myself if I wasn't driving.
Quick question, Councillor Scott.
How do you see a fair way of targeting the people who benefit directly from tourism for funding?
A good question. I suppose it depends how far you take the umbrella. Is it the person who stands at the hotel door? Is it the air conditioning guy? Is it the carpet person who supplies the carpet? Is it the restaurant that benefits because they haven't actually done anything to get anybody into town, but the person comes and eats there and drinks there? Is it the next layer where the person who supplies the veggies? I think it's a very hard, difficult thing to tell because of the fact that the money stays local and goes straight into all the other industries locally, whereas if you buy plant, 80% of the dollars go straight overseas, and you can target that and say, well, actually, we gave you money and you sent it to Germany for a machine, and you know exactly where it is. But tourism doesn't quite work like that. And I think that's why the world in general support tourism, because 95% of businesses in tourism are small. Most of them are family or small operators. And the fact that their money diversifies very quickly across a huge proportion of the economy, that is why regional councils or city councils and governments all over the world help it by putting it together as one package. And Hawke's Bay needs one voice because 400 restaurants trying to advertise around the nation, they'll all go bankrupt trying to do it. But if you can get people here as tourists, they'll fill the restaurants.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it was a very good presentation. Thank you, and we will be back to you in the near future with after our deliberations. So, thank you very much. No, absolutely. So let's now perhaps move to the Art Deco Trust. We sort of jumped around a bit there, Mrs. Jackson.
So this is part 5, and it's page 22 in part 5.
Part 5, page 22.
22 of 68 in part 5. Submission 118. Yes.
What's the chance of any filling in the St Andrews colleges being reduced and getting other taken out of this?
Well, she's not St Andrews Cottages, so nice try.
It would be really helpful in places.
There's more tomorrow. Okay, so we're let's not keep our let's admit waiting. Technology. Is it being delivered by coach or? Is it? And it's which is just broken down. You should have used the vintage train. I'm pretty sure we'll get email here. Okay. So just while we're waiting, you understand how it all works. 10 minutes, and we'd like to ask you some questions, and if you could fit us in the 10 minutes, that'd be great. But of course, it's your time to do with as you wish. Let's wait. Do you need your presentation?
It just would be nice to have it. We've got some pictures to have a look at.
Okay.
But if are you pressed for time? If I can
No,
start at
not particularly. No.
I'm assuming she's just gone to download it from her email.
Can I just ask a question specific to the written one while we're waiting for that? That's over the buses. do you see an increase in routes at Art Deco weekend, or you see special buses put on with particular routes?
I think it'd actually be a bit of both, to be honest. I think definitely an increase, and then targeted routes for specific events. An example of an issue that we have, because I have highlighted that there were issues this year and we received a large number of complaints about it, was the events that we held at Nahariri along West Quay. So it's been a big call over the years for us to host events in wider parts of the region, and so we are doing so now in Hastings and in Nahariri quite significantly.
And yeah, we have had a lot of complaints from people who just can't get around. So they're stuck out in Nahariri or in Hastings or whatever, and there simply isn't the taxi infrastructure to shuffle them around. Anyway, we'll start. Thank you very much for having us here. The Art Deco Trust. Some people in the community absolutely love Art Deco, and some people not so much. But whatever the opinions are, I'm here to talk about the significant benefits the Art Deco Trust brings to Hawke's Bay, the Hawke's Bay community, and hopefully gain some support for the Art Deco weekend. So I have got two parts to my submission. One is concentrating on those transport issues, and the other one is to support Hawke's Bay tourism in their submission. But we'll focus on the Art Deco Trust first and then get into the Hawke's Bay tourism. On page 2 of my submission, you can see what the Art Deco Trust actually does. And as you can see, it's a wide range of activities, and quite a lot of it is actually unseen within the community. Obviously, what we're famous for is the Tremaines Art Deco weekend event and the guided walks that you see around the city. But there's a lot more to the Trust. We work with Hawke's Bay Tourism and running an international and national marketing campaign promoting the region to visitors all year round. We run educational workshops for schools and colleges. We publish books and magazines. We host media and trade personnel through the city, showing them the highlights so we can get into the publications, and then they can sell the tourism products to their clients. And we take our city and our region on tour to trade shows and consumer events to ensure the world knows about Hawke's Bay and what we've got to offer here. And of course, one of the most important jobs is to look after the heritage and preservation issues that our region faces. Of course, this is quite prevalent at the moment with all of the seismic strengthening issues that our heritage buildings are facing. So the Art Deco weekend, we're here today to ask for help with our weekend event, and in particular, I'm not asking for cash, which I'm sure is unusual for people coming in to see you, but I'm asking for help with your transport infrastructure. And I'm confident you know about the event, and hopefully you've all had a chance to enjoy it in recent years. It's in its 27th year, so it's had a long history. But with the major events investment that we received from central government 2 years ago, this event has now changed. It's got bigger and it's attracting more international visitors into the city. And we need to make sure that we're looking after those people. We need to keep momentum going, and we need your support to do this. So the economic impact, and Will, I was lucky to be able to listen to Will, has touched on the economic impact of events, and specifically he mentioned how the economic impact of events and our tourism industry stays within the region, and this is quite particular to our event as well. It's not like a external sporting event that comes in and walks away with all of the money and commissions and ticketing fees. All of our money is held within the Bay. What's really interesting for this event is, and the great news for Hawke's Bay, is that the breakdown in locals versus international figures is increasing. And exactly, I've got my figures in my report are pretty much the same as Will's. We have at the moment for our event 79% are New Zealanders, and the balance are overseas guests. And this has risen over the years. So we're looking at an economic impact of $11 million, and that's not an amount to be sneezed at. And we hope that we can grow that over the next few years. And again, as Will has said, across the country, major events are actually supported financially and through the infrastructure by the local councils of that area. They know how important events are to the community, and to invest in them to ensure the success of the event. And we want to develop a partnership with the Regional Council and really see this event reach its potential. And we've just touched very briefly on the transport issue, but that we send out, at the end of each event, we send out customer surveys, and we had 900 responses come back from our event participants, and a lot of them touched on the transport issues in and around the region. Car parking is in a premium within the city, and many leave their cars behind, or they've actually flown in, and they are completely reliant on public transport. And what we're offering is just not up to world standards, really, and we're inviting the world to us, and we need to be able to keep up with them. So we're asking you to help us with this, put on more buses, and like I mentioned earlier, put on specific buses for events, just to help with that transport and moving people around. And again, the economy will benefit more from big groups of people moving around. They're going to spend more time in the different areas, and it will really help everybody involved. And like I say, I'm not asking for a free service. This could be a customer paid for service, but if it was free, then that would be an excellent facility to provide. We would market the increased transport links via our program and on the web and through our app that we do. And without the support, basically, we will be unable to offer the customers and visitors the experience that they would expect. And we would probably have the continuation of complaints. So I'm hopeful that you will be able to help us with that. And our second part of our submission, a really important part, is the focus on supporting Hawke's Bay tourism and what they do for us. So we are pretty much a large tourism operator, as well as doing all of our preservation and heritage issues. We are a large tourism operator here in the region, and we work very closely on every single project that Hawke's Bay Tourism throws out there for us to take advantage of. All sorts of different activities. With the major events funding that we received from central government, we were able to partner a lot more closely with Hawke's Bay Tourism, and over the past 2 years we've spent a considerable amount of money doing international and national marketing partnerships with Hawke's Bay Tourism, which has really been the result that we've seen with the event and all of the increased tourists that were now coming in to Hawke's Bay for the weekend, for the Art Deco weekend. So without Hawke's Bay Tourism support, we would not have achieved the success levels that we have achieved now. So we fully support Hawke's Bay Tourism, and our submission recommends that Hawke's Bay Regional Council accepts both Part A and Part B of the Hawke's Bay Tourism submission. So in summary, we've sustained a history of providing a valuable service to the Hawke's Bay community. You can't fault where the Art Deco Trust has taken the region in terms of its profile and in terms of protecting its heritage assets. The Art Deco weekend is Hawke's Bay's largest event, although it's highly contended by Horse of Year in today's paper. And we are requesting here today for support of the transport-related issues and request support for Hawke's Bay Tourism. And that's me.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Dick.
Yes, Sally. I'm the transport chair, so I'm very interested in your request for support there. Are you talking about a shuttle between Ahuriri and the CBD? Or what are you talking about?
That's probably one of the key areas, but I think also a shuttle between Napier and Hastings is actually becoming a real need as well. So we're looking to really beef up our activities in Hastings. We have probably about 14 different events that are held over there during the weekend period, and a big thing for us is getting people over there to participate. So we want to increase our car activity over there, our vintage vehicle activity. We want to increase aero displays, all sorts of different activity. And now the event is the size it is, it can sustain going to Hastings, whereas in the past it hasn't been able to do that, whereas now it can. So links back and forward also to Taradale and the key accommodation areas.
All right. It's not an easy one, because generally for events, if there's need for specific transport, that's a cost on the event organiser. It'd be difficult to get NZTA subsidy support, and the Regional Council, of course, levies a specific rate for people who use the scheduled bus services between Napier and Hastings. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying it's not easy, but we'd probably have to sit down with you separately and work it through.
And cost it out, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is an easy answer, but I just would like to open the conversation and to see if we can start things moving, even if it was a small amount of buses that we could put on to help with the situation.
So you've opened up that conversation with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
10 minutes been and gone,
Thank you.
and we will be in touch in the near future.
Lovely. Thank you very
where
much.
we